Ty Brady here with Brady Insurance Marketing and the Ty Brady Way. As a successful entrepreneur myself, I'm passionate in helping other entrepreneurs do the same as they rise from rags to riches and get inspired each week on the stories they tell here at the Ty Brady Way. Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. And today I want to just talk about sales. You know, when you look at sales from starting out to where maybe you are now, and in that process and having a mentor and somebody that you can talk to and rely on. So the sales is a numbers game. Sales, if you measure, you know, and no one likes to keep track of their numbers, and accountability is good as well. But for instance, first of all, when you're in any type of sales, there's really these different directions you can go. You can do direct mail, you can do social media, you can do direct transfer, you can do face-to-face, business-to-business. Those are really, like, the ways of marketing really haven't changed over the years, or the type of marketing. So if whatever decision or direction you go in marketing, pick one and get really good at it. I have agents that will do a direct transfer, meaning they're paying somebody to direct transfer a lead. They're sitting in their office. I have agents that do direct mail. I have agents that work in retail kiosks. I have agents that don't do any of that, right? They have agents that just work with referral partners. But find your path. But what's really important is doing something, action, some kind of action. As I have agents come on board, I usually sit down with them and I sit down and I talk to them about what is the game plan? What is their why? So I'm like, do you want to write 20 apps a month? Do you want to write 10 apps a month? Do you want to write one app a day? I know when I started, the goal when I talked to my mentor was like, he's like, an app a day. He's like, you write an app a day. Didn't care what it was. It was an app a day. It could have been a dental plan. It could have been a cancer plan. It could have been a Medicare Advantage plan. It could have been a supplement. So if you're in sales, just what is that goal that you've set? Number one, and measure it. So did I always get an app a day? No. But here's what happened over time. I knew that goal was there. And then after I got 1, and then I got 8, then I got 9, then I got 12, then I got 20 a month, it just started compounding, but I had that goal. And what I mean by measure is that if you got 1 a week, then say, okay, I want to get 2 the next week. But the ultimate goal is still 20 if that's your stretch goal. So setting that goal and that plan. And as you measure, you can see that success, because it's hard sometimes when you're like, oh, all it feels like I do is dial on the phone. I'm dialing. But what happens is today you dialed, tomorrow you get an appointment. The next day you go do an appointment. Because there's only 3 types of days. There's days doing presentations. There's days closing, right? And there's days setting up appointments. There's no other type of day. So you're setting up an appointment, you're doing presentations, or you're doing closes. So, and in sales, if you know you're doing one of those 3 things every single day, it's going to lead to the next step. So let's start for a minute about dials. I've been talking to a lot of agents about dialing, because in my industry, you're not allowed to go door to door and knock on somebody's door. I wish you could, but you're not able to. That's fine. So, but it's dials. You can dial. And the leads that we're getting, they solicited, meaning the consumer, solicited that they wanted to talk to an agent, right? So that's the first thing. So is get the leads, whatever that lead is. And a lot of my agents are now doing direct mail. So these people went online, checked the box, and said, hey, I want to talk to an agent. Or they physically went to somebody's mailbox, they filled it out, this lead card, and then it got mailed back. So that's the permission to contact that I have from a consumer. So I know the person I'm talking to wanted information about whatever it is. If you're selling XYZ, PDQ, supplements, Medicare Advantage, they wanted information. So if I have that information, then I've got to do the dials. And when is the best time to dial? Is it in the morning, afternoon, evening? I don't know. And sometimes it's a little different, but measure how many dials you make. Okay. I'm going to dial for an hour, or I'm going to do 50 dials, or I'm going to do 20 dials. I used to, back in the day, I would say, I'm going to call every Wednesday night and every Thursday night, and I'm going to dial until I book my week. And my goal was to have 15 appointments a week. And I would dial, and keep dialing. When I got somebody on the phone, I did not like to use the word insurance. This was how I would do it. And this is something that may help you, is I would say, my name is Ty Brady. I am calling with the information you requested about X. because again, they requested information and then pause. And a lot of times I would get this. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't send it in, right? And I would get an objection. But I knew that the lead that they sent in, that they wanted information. So it was my job to ask another question. So if they gave me an objection like that, I would say, well, it shows that you have a birthday coming up in June. Is that correct? Are you aging into Medicare? Oh, yeah, I did send that in. Or I get something like this. Mary, did you send blah, blah, blah? It was Mary, the wife, or it was Joe, the husband, that sent it in. Well, I just overcame an objection by asking an additional question when they responded. And then I would proceed to want to get an appointment. When I got on the phone and talked to people, my number one objective was to get an appointment. That was it. I didn't want to give them information. I didn't want to spend an hour. I just wanted to get an appointment. So I would talk to them. Okay, so you have a birthday coming up in March. Then I may ask an additional question and let them respond, or ask an additional question and let them respond. And then I would give them an option of, do you want to meet on Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 5? They're going to pick one, right? So I knew that the lead card came in. I knew they needed information. I knew that they responded. So whatever they gave me, whatever objection they gave me, I knew that I was going to get past it. Because an objection is you either agree, ignore, or resolve. So as you're making dials, whatever you measure, 20, 30, 40, 50, but I knew that I'd dial for an hour. I'd get 15 appointments a week. 15 appointments a week equated to 5 closes, because there's going to be people you can close today, people that I porched me, unfortunately it happened, people that didn't show up, forgot about my appointment. It happens, part of what you do. And there was people I had to go back and close. So when you're measuring the dials, do this as well. And I've had agents, they say, I did 150 dials and I didn't get a single person pick up. And in my mind, I'm like, it's baloney. There is no way they did 150 dials and nobody picked up, because it's baloney. I'm telling you right now, it's baloney. So this is what they did. They did probably 4 dials and got baloney, but they told me it was 150. So I had an agent that I talked to him and I said, okay, you're going to dial every single day. I want you to send me a text message and tell me what you did. This is the report from an agent, and it's amazing. And I told him to do this as well. Little technique is dial once. You dial once. They don't pick up. You dial back, but you wait 8 to 12 seconds in between dials. Then you dial again. And then you do the same thing. Wait 8 to 12 seconds. The reason you do that, and then on the third time, if they don't pick up, you send them a text message, because the leads that we have, you have permission to text. They opt into text. But you send them a text that says, hey, I have the information you requested about X. I look forward to talking to you. I don't know if I can help. I really, truly don't know that I can help them, or I can help them, or even if I want to help them. But the point is that you do those 3 dials, wait 8 to 12 seconds. The reason you wait 8 to 12 seconds is most cell phone companies, because there's so many people doing outbound phone calls with these roto dial companies and Autobots, is when they dial back to back, it automatically kicks to spam. And we know that if somebody sees a number a second or third time, they're 50% more likely to pick up because they think it's somebody they know. You want to change how many people you talk to get more appointments? Change that. Dial 3 times back to back. Send them a text message, right? And then dial 3 times throughout that day. So you may call that person 12 times throughout the day, morning, evening, and night. I can assure you that you will get somebody on the phone. So I went to a new agent, talked to him, told him to do this. He texted back. He says, Ty, I've been on the phone for an hour. And I'm like, okay, what's he going to tell me, right? He says, Ty, I talked to 5 people. 5 people. I did. And I said, okay. I said, you talked to 5 people. Out of the 7 people picked up. So he dialed for an hour. He had 7 people he talked to, 5 people that picked up. He was able to schedule 3 appointments. And he did it for an hour. So if he did that same thing every single day, how many appointments would he have at the end of his calling sessions? He'd have 10 appointments, right? And then, so know your numbers, track your numbers, and then try that simple technique and strategy. Here's another thing. Agents come into the industry, or people get into sales, and they want to change the systems and strategies of the people that came before them. Think about that for a minute. You have somebody that's a big producer, or somebody that's been selling a lot of product and you want to come in and change it. What I would tell you to do is learn from them first. Get their system down, and then you can tweak it. Because every sales system, they have a strategy. They have a pathway. I pick up a lot of kids. I say kids that have done door-to-door sales. They've done the alarm sales, or they've done pest control sales. And there was a system. And when I asked them, how many houses did you have to knock to get one appointment or one close? Well, I had to knock 40 doors. I want to talk to you next, knock 40 doors. Oh, it took them hours. So those are things that you can measure. And then over time, you can start working on, after you get appointments, then it's the presentation. Because again, there's only 3 types of days. There's days scheduling and appointments. There's days doing presentations. There's days closing. There is no other type of day. There's no such thing as a bad day. If you're doing one of those things and creating action every day, you're going to get results. After you get the appointment, after you've got the sales, getting the appointment scheduled, then it's perfecting the presentation. So that new agent I was just telling you about, now we've been working on the presentation because he knows how to get people on the phone. He has the leads, so he can get people on the phone. He can get appointments. Now we're going to work on perfecting the presentation so then they can get to close. But the point of all that is the strategy is there, right? With those days. And we're getting these little buckets every day that he's getting a little bit more. So he does a presentation. He may not close it today. Now he's got a follow-up. He's one step closer to getting it closed. So perfecting the presentation in wherever you work, they have a presentation, or they should. One of the things that my mentor helped me out a lot with is he says, Ty, I know you can go and sell, but your process is not duplicatable. I'm like, what do you mean it's not duplicatable? And what he meant by that is my system is my system. It works for me, but you need something that somebody could basically watch and then duplicate. So my mentor and we came up with a presentation that's a flip chart. It takes 12, 15 minutes to go over. And what it simply does explains what Medicare is and what Medicare isn't, what 2 different directions they can go. Can they go Medicare supplement or Medicare Advantage? What that presentation does is it builds trust and credibility that nobody else is doing. What it also does is I can give that to a new agent or an agent that's never been part of my team and say, hey, go out and do this presentation. And here's what happened after we created this presentation. My mentor said, Ty, teach everybody this presentation. Now I have it on my website. I have people that can go and watch it. People that have seen me do this role play. But I went and knocked on a door in my younger years, and I knocked on this guy's door, and he says, Ty, I don't know if you're old enough to be helping with Medicare. And I said this, I said, give me 15 minutes and that's all I need. And you can tell me if I can still stay. So we sit down at his kitchen table. He invites me in. He literally takes his watch off his wrist, puts it on the corner of the table, and he says, go. There was no roundabout. No, I didn't even get to know this guy. He's like, go. And I'm like, here we go. Pulled out my flip chart. And I like a flip chart that you can actually touch and hold and move around, because I move the slide or the slide deck a little bit here or there. I'll pull a slide out to re-communicate something. And I started going through the presentation. I said, okay, you're drawing Social Security. Yes. Okay. So you're auto-enrolled in Medicare. So I'm going through the steps. I'm going through the presentation. And I get about midway through the presentation, and this guy takes his hand and he raises it up and he slaps the table as hard as he can. And I jump and I pause, and he says, Ty, I've been on Medicare for 10 years and I finally understand how it works. It was a simple presentation. I don't get paid to explain what Medicare is and what it does and doesn't do, but it builds trust and credibility. He was a mayor of that small town, and he referred me to every single one of the city council members, ended up getting 9 deals from that one appointment. And that guy was a client up until a few years ago. He unfortunately passed away. But you have the presentation, master it, make it your own, learn the lingo, learn the dialogue, be the one that can answer those questions, because the person you're sitting in front of doesn't know what you know. I can bring all the value, all the facts, but the facts don't sell. Stories do. Stories are what sell. Facts just tell. So we talked a lot about calling and making the appointment. Now the presentation. The next one is the close. So after you've done the presentation, after you've asked some additional questions, here's where a lot of salespeople fail, I believe. They don't ask questions to engage the consumer with what the product they're offering. I get pitches all the time on the phone. People will call me up. And I got a guy call me up the other day and he says, I got a really good deal for you on the website. Would you want one? No. Or someone calls me up and says, I got leads and we have inbound calls and we can sell them to you for blah, 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 blah. No. And I always do the reverse on these people that call me trying to sell me something. I always ask them, do you know what I do? Do they? And a lot of them are like, I'm like, they did zero research on who I am or what I even do. And this is important. I know the people that I meet with are aging into Medicare or out of Medicare. I know the product and service I can help them with, but are they even in a position where they're willing to listen? So if a person calls me up and says, Ty, I see that you're an insurance agency. Can you tell me where your heartburn is? What do you mean heartburn? Well, are you struggling to get leads? Where are you struggling as an agency? How can I help you? That's different than somebody calling me up saying, hey, I got a lead that I can give you an inbound call. I can flood you with all these leads and they're blah, 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 blah. I'm more likely to listen to the person that asked me a question on where my heartburn is. Or Ty, tell me a little bit about your agency. I have people that call me up. They want to sell me a landline. I have a zero landline. They could do a presentation for an hour on trying to sell me a landline that I don't even need. So ask questions to the individual and don't go straight into a presentation. So when you're doing the presentation, ask questions along the way and know the consumer or the client before know if you can even help them. Now, I know I can help them because of the product and service that I have to offer, but those lead companies or anybody that approaches me trying to sell me something, they don't do any research. So do a little bit of research on where you're going or who you're talking to and get to know them a little bit about what their heartburn is. Because I can tell you, I have heartburn. My agency has heartburn. My heartburn is recruiting and training, meaning I can never recruit enough and I can never train enough. I need 100 people like me. So if somebody calls me up and says, hey, Ty, I can help you get agents. Well, guess what? That takes pressure off of me. I'm going to probably listen to them, whatever their pitch is. Now, everyone wants to sell me AI and they want to sell me all these things where I have to talk to people. And I think that's a mistake because I like to do business with people face to face, especially the demographic I'm serving and helping. They like to do business face to face, but get to know the person before you go there and ask questions and don't go straight into a pitch. So then once you've done all that, you got to the close, and the close should be really easy if you've done your part, meaning if you've found out where the need is, you found out where their heartburn is. And then if it becomes an affordability issue, that's back on you creating value. Because if somebody calls and says, Ty, I can get you agents on your team for $1,000 for each agent. Well, I know what it costs me to recruit an agent. And now, you know what? $1,000 is reasonable to me. I mean, to pay $1,000 if they can find me an agent that's willing to get in the market and wanted to come on board, I'd be willing to listen. But they don't ever take the time to find that out because they're too busy trying to sell me something that I don't even need. All right. And I'm not going to listen. That takes you to a prospect. What is a prospect? Somebody who's willing to listen, somebody who has a need and the ability to pay. Well, in the insurance industry, 4 out of 4 still need more. So I know they need something. The question is, are they willing to listen? And then the last one is the ability to pay. You eliminate the ability to pay, or if they're willing to pay, if you create the value. Because again, everybody insures their cell phones. You can't tell me they can't spend $1 to buy a cancer plan that's going to give them a bucket of money for $10,000 if they're diagnosed with cancer tomorrow. They can afford that. The question is, did I create enough value that they want to buy it from me? That's the issue. So the 3 things today is presentation, right? We talked about presentation. We talked about close. We talked about objections. Take these little tidbits and tips that you've learned today, because we're going to break these up on reels and then drive people back to the podcast show. But take what you need and use it. But know your numbers, track your numbers, master the presentation before you take all the time trying to create a presentation. master the people before you, and then identify a prospect and ask questions. As always, share, like, and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. As always, share, like, and subscribe. Go to Instagram at ty.r.brady. And as always, love hearing from you. And let me know what you want to learn on the show or what you'd like me to bring up on the show. Thanks.
You can find the Ty Brady Way on Instagram as well as Facebook. To stay connected with giveaways and Ty himself, go ahead and follow at ty.r.brady on Instagram as well as Facebook. This podcast was recorded, edited, and produced by Whitney Face Media Marketing. The theme music is an excerpt from Hot Chicken of the Woods by Isaac Joel.